I was thinking this morning about that. That very specific, very frustrating feeling that I think kind of defines the modern workplace right now.
Oh, I think I know where you're going with this.
It's 8:00 a.m. on a Tuesday. You're at home, you're finishing up your coffee,
Yeah.
you pull out your phone, and in, what, 30 seconds, you use an AI tool to plan your entire week's meals
Or
or
draft a complex travel itinerary.
exactly, or summarize a 40-page report you didn't have time to read,
Mm.
and you feel so efficient. You feel like you're living in, I don't know, the year 2030.
It's frictionless. It's like magic, honestly.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you commute to the office, you sit down at your desk, and suddenly it is 2005 again.
Mm-hmm.
You're wrestling with this rigid legacy software that looks like it was built during the Bush administration. You're drowning in manual data entry, and if you even whisper the words generative AI to IT,
They look at you like you just brought a live grenade into the server room.
yes, it's the great disconnect.
It really is. We're seeing this massive widening gap between individual adoption, how fast we as human beings pick up new tools, and organizational adoption, which moves at the speed of, well,
A committee meeting.
a committee meeting. Exactly.
And that is precisely what we are unpacking today.
Mhm.
We're doing a deep dive into a really compelling piece of analysis from McKinsey, an article from July 2025 by Bob Sternfels and Yuval Atzman. And the mission for this deep dive feels pretty urgent.
It is urgent.
How do organizations stop acting like it's 2015? Because this gap, it's not just annoying anymore, it's becoming dangerous.
It really is. And to get the urgency, the authors introduce a term that I think just perfectly frames this demographic shift we're seeing, AI natives.
AI natives.
Good.
Okay, so we've heard of digital natives, right? That was the millennial generation growing up with the internet.
Right, and you can see the progression. That was the first wave. The digital natives brought cloud platforms into work, often before the company officially approved them. Then you had the mobile natives who were, doing business on WhatsApp or Slack on their personal phones while corporate was still debating BlackBerry policy.
And now the AI natives.
Exactly. And it's important to say this isn't just about age, it's about behavior.
Okay.
These are employees who see Gen AI as a utility, like electricity or Wi-Fi. They're using it to write code, draft emails, clean up messy data sets, and here's the critical point. They are not asking for permission.
They're just doing it.
Yeah.
Because it works.
It's just the most efficient way to work. Meanwhile, the leadership team is still forming a steering committee to decide if they should use AI.
Precisely.
And the numbers from the 2024 McKinsey Global Survey, they're just staggering. Even back in 2024, 9 in 10 employees said they were using Gen AI for work.
90%.
Yes.
That's basically everyone.
Yeah.
If you look around a meeting room, 9 out of 10 people are using it.
And 21% were considered heavy users.
Yeah.
But here's the massive disconnect. Only 13% of those same employees considered their organization to be an early adopter.
Wow. So let's just pause on that. You have a workforce that is sprinting, using the most advanced tools available to get their jobs done.
And a management layer that is, for all intents and purposes, crawling.
Yeah.
And look, unlike the shift to mobile or cloud, the speed of AI evolution means the window to catch up it's tiny.
Right.
In previous tech cycles, you had 5, maybe 10 years to figure out your strategy. You could wait and see. With AI, the gap between something being a competitive advantage and becoming a competitive necessity is measured in months.
That is a terrifying thought for any executive listening. But what I really like about this McKinsey source is that it doesn't just say, buy more software. It argues the bottleneck isn't even technological.
No, it's psychological.
That's all about mindset.
It's entirely about mindset. The technology is there, the people are ready, the organization is the block, and they outline 4 specific mindset shifts that leaders need to make. And I want to be clear, these are not fluffy, be more innovative slogans.
No, these are structural changes.
Exactly, to how a company actually operates.
So let's dive into the first one because it uses a metaphor that I think is just incredibly helpful for visualizing this. It comes from the developmental psychologist Alison Gopnik from her book, The Gardener and the Carpenter.
It's a brilliant analogy for management. So think about the carpenter. A carpenter builds by design. You have a blueprint.
Measure twice, cut once.
You measure twice, cut once. You assemble the structure exactly as planned. It's linear, it's controlled, the outcome is deterministic. You know exactly what that chair is going to look like before you even start.
Which is basically the standard operating procedure for every large corporation on the planet. You got a 5-year roadmap.
Yeah.
You have milestones you execute. If it's not in the plan, it doesn't happen.
Correct. And that works great if you're building, say, a bridge or a payroll system where you cannot afford errors. But Sternfels and Atzmon argue that applying that carpenter mindset to AI is fatal.
Why?
Because if you try to meticulously plan an AI rollout from the top down, by the time you finish the plan, the models have upgraded 2 generations and your use case is already obsolete.
You're building yesterday's solution for tomorrow's problem. So if the carpenter doesn't work,
Mm.
we need the gardener.
Right. A gardener can't force a plant to grow. You can't pull on a tomato plant to make it taller. You'll just kill it.
Sure.
You create the ecosystem, you water the soil, you make sure there's sunlight, you pull the weeds, and then, and this is the key part, you watch where the sprouts appear naturally. You nurture what is already growing.
Okay, but let's bring this down to earth a bit.
Mm.
In a corporate context, nurturing what is growing sounds a little like let employees do whatever they want. How does that actually look in practice?
It means identifying those AI natives we talked about, the people who are already using the tools on the sly, and instead of punishing them, you support them. The source gives a textbook example from an Asian financial services company.
Okay, so break that down for us. What did they do?
So management noticed their development teams were informally using Gen AI to streamline how they wrote and tested code. Now, the traditional carpenter knee-jerk reaction would be,
Security risk. Shut it down. You're violating protocol. You're using unapproved software.
exactly, that is not in the manual. But this leadership team took the Gardner approach. They realized, hey, these teams are onto something. They're solving a real problem. So instead of banning it, they built a common data layer to support it.
Hang on, let's define that. A common data layer. Why was that the specific move?
So one of the biggest risks with AI in a company is data fragmentation. Everyone using different data sets or worse, feeding proprietary data into public models where it might leak.
Right.
By building a common data layer, IT basically provided a secure, standardized sandbox where the developers could access the company's data safely. They provided the soil and the fences.
So they didn't tell them how to code, they just made it safe for them to do what they were already doing. They institutionalized the behavior. What was the result?
They automated their data labeling processes and cut the development time for new AI applications in half.
In half. Just by legitimizing what was already happening in the shadows.
And we see this dynamic with shadow IT all the time. Customer service reps using chatbots to draft empathy statements, or HR managers using it to write job descriptions.
Oh, I know people who do this. They have ChatGPT open in one tab and their work email in another, and they're copy-pasting back and forth like they're smuggling contraband.
And the Gardner mindset just flips that whole narrative. It says, if our people are breaking the rules to do their jobs better, maybe the problem isn't the people. Maybe the problem is the rules.
It's a shift from being an enforcer to being a cultivator. But this leads us to a massive practical hurdle. You can have the best gardener CEO in the world, but if the people in the middle aren't on board, nothing happens. Which brings us to the second mindset, incentives.
Right. We have to talk about the frozen middle.
Middle management often gets a bad rap in these discussions. They're usually painted as the blockers, the bureaucrats.
The place where good ideas go to die. And they are, but the source makes a very empathetic point here, which I think is important. Middle managers aren't blocking AI because they're malicious or stupid. They're blocking it because of rational self-interest.
They're protecting their workflow.
Totally. Imagine you run a marketing team. You have strict KPIs, you're understaffed, and you have a process that works. You hit your numbers last quarter. Now leadership comes in and says, adopt this new AI workflow.
Okay.
In the short term, that means a steep learning curve, probably some errors, and a slowdown in output. Why would you do that if your bonus is tied to hitting this quarter's numbers using the old method?
So the incentive structure is actually punishing them for innovating.
Yeah.
If they try the new thing and it slows them down even a little bit, they lose.
Precisely. So to fix this, you have to change what you reward. Financial incentives are part of it, sure. But the source argues that social recognition and competency-based rewards are actually more powerful here.
So you don't just reward a successful project.
You have to reward the act of learning.
That's a subtle but really important distinction. Rewarding the attempt.
You reward the acquisition of new skills. You reward the person who runs a lunch and learn on prompt engineering, even if it doesn't immediately translate to revenue. You have to lower the psychological cost of being a beginner.
That touches on a point about vulnerability that I found really interesting. It's rare to hear McKinsey talk about vulnerability.
It is, but in this context, it's strategic. If the CEO stands up and says, I am an expert, follow me, that creates pressure. But if a respected leader says, Hey, I'm trying to figure out how to use this tool for strategy planning, and honestly, I am struggling with the hallucinations. That gives everyone else permission.
It signals that it's safe to not know everything yet. It humanizes the whole transition.
Right, it de-risks the learning process, and the source mentions using innovation rituals to formalize this.
Like hackathons.
Similar, but more integrated into the daily flow. One tech executive described innovation days, just dedicated time where teams can explore ideas that are explicitly not on the roadmap.
Explore what is not on the roadmap. I love that phrasing. Because usually in a corporate setting, if it's not on the roadmap, it doesn't exist. It's invisible work.
Exactly. And these sessions often lead to the discoveries that end up becoming the new roadmap, but you have to carve out the space and signal that it's valid work, not just goofing off. You have to create the capacity for surprise.
Okay, so we're nurturing the sprouts and we're incentivizing people to learn without fear. But there's a danger here. If we just tell everyone go play with AI, we could end up with chaos.
Right.
1,000 little pilot programs that don't actually do anything useful.
Which brings us to mindset number 3, foster rapid learning, or, as I like to call it, apply the scientific method.
Because a lot of companies say they're experimenting, but what they really mean is we're messing around without a plan.
Correct. Experimenting has become this corporate buzzword for trying stuff with no accountability. The source argues that successful organizations borrow principles from A/B testing. You need a rigorous hypothesis.
So not just, we're going to use AI to be more productive.
That's way too vague. A real hypothesis is, we believe that using AI to summarize legal contracts will reduce review time by 50% while maintaining accuracy above 98%.
That's specific. You can measure that. You can pass or fail that test.
And you can test the underlying assumptions. But here is the most critical part of this mindset, and it's one most companies get wrong. It is not about whether the pilot succeeds or fails. It's about documenting why it happened.
There's a fantastic historical example in the source that illustrates this perfectly. It's about Amazon Prime Video.
Yes, this is a classic case study in the why. So, rewind to the early days of Amazon's video streaming. They launched a pilot program. Technologically, it worked. The video streamed. But commercially, it was a failure. It underperformed against all the targets.
Now, if they had just looked at the numbers, the logical Carpenter decision would have been to kill the project.
Kill it. Nobody wants this. Shut it down. Cut your losses. But they asked why. Why aren't users engaging? And because they actually dug into the data and user feedback, they found this crucial insight. Customers didn't see standalone value in the streaming service. They were already subscribed to Netflix or cable. They didn't want another bill.
So the insight wasn't video is bad. It was video alone isn't enough.
Exactly. So they pivoted, they bundled it with the Prime membership, and suddenly the value proposition wasn't just watch this movie, it was get free shipping and watch this movie. It increased the stickiness of the entire Prime ecosystem.
And now it's a massive driver for subscriptions. But they only got there because they treated the failure as data, not as a dead end.
And that is the lesson for AI. If you try to implement a Gen AI customer service bot and customers hate it, don't just scrap it. Ask why. Is it the tone? Is it the latency? Is it that people just want to talk to a human for complex issues?
The failure contains the roadmap for the success.
It does, and the source makes a great point that you don't need 1,000 people to learn this.
No.
This is another misconception. You don't need a massive year-long pilot. Meaningful insights can come from 5 to 10 people over 2 weeks. The goal is rapid iteration, high-velocity learning, not statistical significance for a PhD thesis.
You just want to learn fast enough to change direction before you run out of money.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're experimenting like scientists, but there's one final trap. Because AI is so hyped up, and because leaders are so desperate to show they're being modern, they have a tendency to get a little overexcited.
Ah, yes. The participation trophy problem. This is mindset number 4. Maintain high standards for praise.
I have seen this happen so many times. Leader gets so excited that someone used AI to, write a limerick for a meeting invite, that they send out a company-wide email celebrating it as digital transformation.
And the intention is good. They want to encourage usage, but it just creates noise. If you celebrate everything equally, the truly breakthrough ideas get lost.
You settle for mediocrity.
You do. You signal that playing around is the goal rather than, business impact.
So we need to be snobs.
We need to be discerning. We need to distinguish between interesting experiments, which are worth trying, and game-changing innovations, which are worth scaling.
How do you change that conversation with your team? Because you don't want to discourage them. You want them to try things, but you also want them to aim high.
It's all about the questions you ask. Instead of asking, so how is the AI project going, which just invites people to sell you on how great everything is,
Right.
you ask, what did you learn that surprised you?
What surprised you? I like that. It forces honesty. You can't really BS that answer.
It forces reflection.
Mm-hmm.
If they say, nothing surprised me, they probably aren't experimenting hard enough. And if you really want to cut through the hype, there's an anecdote in the source about a group CEO of a large conglomerate that I think is just, it's brutal, but it's brilliant.
Oh, the budget story. Yes.
Yeah.
I marked this one down. Tell us what he did.
So this CEO wants to drive real AI adoption. He asks 100 business unit leaders to sponsor AI projects. Everyone raises their hand, right? Everyone wants the funding.
Of course. Free money for cool tech. Who wouldn't?
But then he drops the hammer. He told them they would only get the funding if the projected returns from the project were reflected in their budgets for the following year.
Oof. So if you say, this AI project will save us $1 million, the CEO says, great, I am cutting your budget by $1 million next year. Good luck.
Exactly. Put your money where your mouth is.
That certainly clears the room of the people who are just bluffing.
It forces a focus on tangible results over hype. It clears the playing field instantly. You go from AI is cool to AI is going to pay the rent. It raises the stakes, but it ensures that the innovations you're scaling are the ones that actually matter to the bottom line.
It connects the technology back to the business reality,
Mm-hmm.
which that feels like the theme of this whole discussion. We can get lost in the magic of the Tuesday morning app, but at work it has to deliver.
It has to. AI isn't a toy, it's a business lever.
So let's synthesize this. We've covered a lot of ground. We're moving from the carpenter to the gardener, nurturing the sprouts that are already there, even if they're in the shadows. We're shifting incentives to reward the learning curve, not just the output. We're applying the scientific method to our experiments, asking why, not just what. And finally, we're keeping our standards high, praising the impact, not just the effort.
And if you combine these four mindsets, you don't just get technology adoption faster. You get something more durable. You build organizational confidence.
Because every time you document a failure, you prevent a repeat mistake. Every time you scale a success, you build momentum.
Exactly. You are building a machine that learns. And in a world that is changing this fast, the ability to learn institutionally is the only sustainable competitive advantage left.
That's a great point.
The specific tools will change next year. The ability to adopt them is what stays.
So let's wrap this up with a final thought for our listeners. We started with that feeling of the individual moving faster than the organization.
And we should leave them with a quote mentioned in the source from the cyberpunk author William Gibson. He famously said, "The future is already here, it's just not evenly distributed."
Meaning, some people have the cool tech and some people are still using fax machines.
Right. But the article suggests a twist on this. The future isn't just uneven, it's constantly being redistributed. The landscape shifts every single day. The tools you use today might be obsolete in 6 months. The distribution isn't static.
So the question isn't just, where is the future?
The question for you, listening right now, is, are you waiting for the distribution to get to you? Are you waiting for corporate to hand you the future in a nicely wrapped box? Or are you the one doing the distributing?
Wow.
Because the gardeners, the experimenters, the learners,
Right.
they're the ones deciding where the future goes next.
Stop waiting, start distributing. That is a powerful place to leave it. Thanks for diving in with us today.
Always a pleasure.